The year is 850. In a cold village in northern Europe, a woman wakes up. She's 9 months pregnant. But today isn't a day like one in your world. There's no doctor, no hospital, no painkillers, just a knife, some herbs, and a wise woman standing beside her. So, if you got pregnant in the Viking Age, could you survive the birth? Let's find out together. For the Vikings, marriage was more of an arrangement than a love story. These arrangements between families were meant to secure land, status, and alliances. Women were often married off at an early age, around 12 to 15, while men were usually a bit older, in their 20s. But here's something important to know. Viking women had surprisingly more rights than other European women of the same era. They could request a divorce, own property, and even divorce a husband who abandoned the household. If a woman got divorced, the children usually stayed with her. The family structure was extended and communal. Grandmothers, aunts, neighboring women all played a role in the process of childbirth and child rearing. You were never alone, but you had no privacy either. Now here's the bad news. Nobody exempted you from work just because you were pregnant. Viking women continued working throughout pregnancy. In the fields, at home, on the weaving loom, tending to the animals. Even the recovery time right after childbirth was quite short. The luxury of rest was only somewhat more available to wealthier families. It's estimated that a woman gave birth to about 7 children on average in her lifetime, with roughly 2 to 2.5 years between births. This means a large part of her life was spent either pregnant, nursing, or having just given birth. So what did you eat? Grain porridges, dairy products, dried fish, meat, and seasonal vegetables. There were, of course, no prenatal vitamins in the modern sense, but a diet heavy in grains and dairy at least provided a basic source of energy. Preparation for birth was shaped more around ritual and belief. Runic symbols were carved, charms were carried, and during labor, people called upon fertility goddesses like Frigg or protective spirits. Rather than scientific preparation, this was a search for spiritual reassurance. Here's the heart of the video, the moment of birth. Only women were present at a birth. Men were not allowed in this space. The woman who assisted with the birth was called a bjargriger, meaning helping woman, a role close to today's concept of a midwife. Unlike modern childbirth, Viking women didn't lie on their backs. They usually knelt or leaned forward. It was believed that gravity would ease the birth. Today, some natural birth methods still recommend similar positions, so this wasn't an entirely irrational method. It's thought that certain herbal mixtures were used as pain relief during labor, though their effectiveness is unknown. The real medicine was courage, the support of experienced women, and ritual words. In old Norse sagas, like the Filsunga saga, there are dramatic scenes showing just how dangerous childbirth could be. Prolonged, difficult labors seriously increased the risk of death. A birth that dragged on meant hanging between life and death. Now it's time to face reality. Surviving childbirth in this era was a genuine struggle. It's estimated that even among those who survived birth, average life expectancy was only around 20 years, a statistic pulled down, of course, by infant deaths. Children under 15 made up nearly half the population. The postpartum period was extremely dangerous in terms of infection risk. Hygiene standards were very different from today, and bleeding or infection was the cause of death for many women. A woman dying during or after childbirth was considered just as honorable a death as a man dying in battle. This alone shows just how risky childbirth was seen to be. Here's perhaps the most striking detail. Being born didn't automatically mean a baby was accepted into the family. After birth, the baby was placed on the ground. Then the father, sometimes a respected elder, would lift the child up, sprinkle water over it, and speak its name. This ritual was called ausa vatni, meaning sprinkling with water, and it was usually performed 9 days after birth. Until this ritual was performed, the child was not legally considered a person. Babies born weak or unhealthy could be left outside during this period, a painful but historical fact. However, once the water sprinkling ritual had been performed, killing a child was considered murder. Names were usually chosen from a recently deceased relative, most often a grandmother or grandfather. It was believed that this passed on that person's luck or spirit to the new baby. There was also a tradition called Nafnfest, in which the baby was given a gift, a ring, a weapon, a piece of land. So how does popular culture get Viking pregnancy wrong? First, Viking women are always portrayed as warrior mothers, clad in armor, wielding swords. In reality, while pregnant women were sometimes depicted with warrior imagery in artwork, most women in daily life were ordinary individuals engaged in farming and weaving. Second, the idea that childbirth was a natural and trouble-free process is wrong. Sources clearly show that long and complicated births posed a genuine threat of death. Third, the idea that Vikings were savage when it came to abandoning children is exaggerated. In fact, this was a rare practice, tightly bound by strict social rules. Killing a child after the water sprinkling ritual was explicitly considered murder. So, if you had gotten pregnant in the Viking Age, no painkillers, no hospital, no rest, but you had a community of women who never left you alone, protective rituals, and a surprisingly powerful will. So do you think you could have survived under these conditions? Let us know in the comments.